everybody. Thanks for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started here just a minute or so early so I can cover a couple of details for you. Anita is here today doing the webinar from her home in Portland, but has had a little bit of a hiccup with Comcast this morning, and that we were slow to get started, and it looks like the video might drop in and out a bit with Anita, depending on how her internet is performing there. So please know that we are going to do the best to keep it up for you, but you may or may not see her the entire time. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Jackie Hefner, and I'm here with Anita to do today's webinar, Explicit Instruction in Action. I've got a couple quick details to get started. If you have questions, please feel free to submit them in the Q&A box on your screen. Please make sure to include me as a host so I can track the questions for Anita to review at the end of the session. If you're on a PC, the Q&A icon will be in the upper right corner of your WebEx window. If you're on a Mac, it's in the bottom right corner. If you have technical troubles during the webinar, let us know, and I will try to do what I can to help get sorted out. We do find occasionally that some folks in schools might have trouble with the audio if everybody in your school jumps on computers in a lab in a hurry. So we can send you the audio broadcast call-in number if need be. We are recording today's webinar as always, and we'll make it available on the webpage with Anita's previously scheduled webinars, and we'll send a reminder out once it's live. Let's get things turned over to Anita. Are you there, Anita? Anita?
Hi there.
We are ready for you.
We are ready. So, welcome to all of you. And this is the TOT Explicit Instruction webinar. And we named it Explicit Instruction in Action. And it's really in response to an email that I received from one of the summer trainees on explicit instruction who said, you know, we looked at all of these instructional behaviors that make a difference under the umbrella of explicit instruction, but I would really like to see how all the pieces fit together. And the students and the teachers that I'm working with would like to see how it all fits together. So that's what this webinar is dedicated to. And actually right now I'm in Portland, Oregon, my hometown. It's fall here, my favorite season. The swifts are returning, the birds that migrate through here. I've had a glorious week. I was in British Columbia working with First Nation teachers, and then got to teach 8th graders and 2nd graders. That made my life complete this week. So I hope all is going well. We just have one little problem in that the internet in my home and neighborhood has been iffy. So we are just send all good energy for total connection. So with that, you have access, as you remember, to the handout, to the PowerPoint, and also to the actual webinar that's archived so that you can check it out later and use it. So my goals are sort of twofold. One, that TOT trainer said I would like to show it to people that I'm working with as an introduction to instructional elements. Okay, but it's also for retrieval practice for the trainers. And so we're going to watch a lesson that I taught last year, and then we're going to stop, and you're going to have to retrieve what were the good practices, and then I'll give you feedback on that. So with this limited time, let's leap forward. Now, one of the things that all of us have looked at are the elements that Charles Hughes and myself chose from the research on explicit instruction as being critical. So let's just get those in mind before we look at the lesson. So we divided them into content, design, delivery, and practice. And you're going to have to respond as usual. So the 16 elements which most of you memorized, in terms of content, we want content that is critical. We want it sequenced in a way that is logical. And when things are very complex, we want to break it down into critical, doable, obtainable units. So, and the most important one there, I believe, is focusing on critical content. And then we looked at the design, and the lessons would be organized and focused, that we would give the students a clear statement of the goal, that we would go back and review using retrieval practice, so that you'd have to bring it out of your brain in order to dig deeper neural pathways. If you were teaching a new skill or strategy, you would have step-by-step demonstrations followed by guided practice and clear and concise language. And when you make clear discernments, you'd use both examples and non-examples. It's all coming back to you, I'm sure. And then delivery. We get frequent responses. We would constantly monitor. We would give affirmative and corrective feedback. And we would have a pretty brisk pace. And we'd organize the knowledge for easier attainment of the students. And we're not just going to have initial practice, but like today, this is a perfect example of distributed practice to increase the probability of retention. So those are elements, though we added all kinds of details in terms of what makes a difference in terms of students learning. So the lesson that I decided to teach is one that I actually had a chance to teach twice, once in the 4th grade, once in the 5th grade, and it was on theme of a narrative. And so hopefully the strategy itself will be useful to you, but mostly that the actual reminder of good instruction would be. So you need a piece of paper nearby, and I want you to write on it, as I have done here, design and delivery, and you're going to take notes on just the first part. We're going to do it in segments. I'm going to teach a bit. We're going to stop, give you a chance to type in, actually, what you observed as good practices, and then we'll debrief with my notes. So on your paper, if you put design of instruction and delivery of instruction, and it's just going to be on the opening, and you're going to record what are good practices. All right, brilliant ones, let us begin. So you're 5th graders, and you have to participate. Now, we're going to ask you to say things together and say things to partners and write things down and read them. And if you're sitting by someone else, grab them and make them your partner. Give yourself the numbers 1 and 2. If you do not have a partner available, then talk to an invisible partner. And so that we can get the feel of this also. All right, the opening. Okay, 5th graders. We have been reading many, many stories, and we have been looking at the elements within a story. And today we are going to learn about how to figure out the theme, which is the most important element of a story, because, as we'll see, it really tells the message of the author. What is the message of the author? What do the authors want us to learn from reading their story? Well, let us take a moment for a little review. So we have been studying elements of a story, so I want you to write down on your paper the elements of a story. In fact, you can do this. Type them in. We're going to try out our answer column for typing in answers. So type in elements of a story. I gave you a starter, a setting of a story, a title of a story, and go. So Jackie, if you could be ready to let me see that, their answers, that would be cool.
Should be able to see. I don't see any answers. Oh, I see Holly Smith saying characters. Now they're starting to come in.
Yeah. Okay.
Jason says characters of the story, plot,
Excellent.
conflict resolution setting,
Beautiful.
body, characters, problem,
Wonderful.
point of view, character setting, plot, climax, rising action.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so that would tell me that you totally have mastery of that, exactly what I'd expect. So here were the big ones we've been studying. So fifth graders, for every story there'd be one or even more than one, a setting. There'd be one person that particularly was the focus of the story, the main character. The character would often have a problem or a conflict, and the character would try to, resolve the problem. And we learned what happened in the end, and the new one. And what is the lesson? What is the theme of the story? So that is exactly what we are going to focus on. And let's take a moment and think about what is a theme. But first, here's our objectives, and I wrote them up in honor of my Australian friends, because when I visit their classrooms, this is how they wrote it up. They have the WALT, we are learning to, and read it with me and begin. We are learning to determine the theme of a narrative. And WILF is what I'm looking for as a teacher, and read it with me and go. I'm looking for a theme that conveys the big idea or message of the narrative, the story. So we're going to learn how to determine the theme, and it should tell us the message of the narrative. And it's important because to understand a narrative, and read it with me, let's try it again. To understand a narrative, we have to determine the theme, the message, or big idea of the story. Okay, so we have a good idea of what we are going to be learning today. Okay, so before I go here, we just had an opening, and I want you to type in, don't peek in my feedback, type in what you saw, either in terms of design or delivery. And Jackie's going to convey them to me, so type away. For example, I got your attention at the beginning, and we went back and did some review. So other things that you thought were good practice, and begin.
We have introduced the goal, listed
right.
Clear objectives.
Excellent.
Call and response.
Call and response, right? So in terms of delivery, beautiful.
Respond and review.
Excellent.
Choral reading.
Choral reading, right.
Teacher demonstration, guided practice, objectives stated.
Absolutely. Now we haven't gotten to guided practice yet, but we will.
Tell the end objective, review.
Perfect.
Why it's important.
So let's look at what my notes were. And I said, well, in terms of design, the opening of a lesson would gain your attention, would have review that's interactive with retrieval practice, and the preview would establish the goal. And so the structure is pretty consistent across lessons, that we would get the attention of the learner, we would have review of what we had covered in the past, or what it could link to. In this case, theme definitely links to story grammar, and the goal of the lesson. in terms of delivery. Even as we're doing this interactively, I asked you to make short oral responses. I could have you share it with your partner. In this case, I had you share with me and had you write a list of big ideas as you watched it, and then I had you check it right now. So we are basically seeing the kind of interactive instruction that we would want. That even in the opening, where we are doing review and where we are going back and doing the goal of the lesson, there are responses throughout. Now, I can't monitor you, though Jackie's reading your responses, so I can monitor a little bit that way. And I'm giving you feedback right now, and we are having a pretty brisk pace. So, the day I taught this, that was very much the introduction we had, and then we went to the body of the lesson. And the reason I chose this is we learned that there were three major types of things that we teach. That we teach facts, that we teach concepts, and we teach strategies, with each with a little bit unique pedagogy instruction. And this lesson allows me to remind us of all of them. And so before we even start, if I was teaching a vocabulary lesson and I was teaching the meaning of a word, think for a moment of the steps that you'd expect for me to have. So thinking, so I'm going to bet in terms of design, you said something like you're going to introduce the pronunciation of the word, you're going to introduce the meaning of the word, you're going to illustrate it with some examples, and you are going to then check for understanding. Okay, so let's see if I do those during the design, and how would I actively involve the students embedded within this. So again, you're going to take notes on design and delivery, and then when we're done with this segment, I'll have you type in some of your answers in terms of first design and then good practices in terms of delivery. And remember, if you have a partner there, you're going to be asked to share with your partner. If you don't have a partner, you have an imaginary partner. Okay, fifth graders again. So we are first going to start learning exactly what is a theme. And would you read the first sentence with me and keep your voice with mine? Begin. Theme is an underlying message or the big idea of a story. Now let's just look at that again. Underlying message. Now the author doesn't come out and say, this is the big idea of this story. No, it's underlying, it's there, and we have to find it, but the author doesn't always tell us directly. Okay, and read the second bullet with me and go. The theme often tells more about human nature or life in general. So I say to myself, it is a big idea that the author is trying to convey, to give me, and it's often about human nature, how we are as people, as well as life in general. And read the last one with me and go. The same theme could appear in more than one story. That is an important idea. This is such a big idea, the theme is, the message of the author, that there could be one story with that theme, another story with the theme, another. In fact, later, after we really get theme down, I'm going to give you a theme, and you're going to be writing stories that will be very different from each other, but all with the same message or big idea. So let's go back over this one more time. So the theme is the message or what, everyone? Big idea. It might tell about human nature, how we are as people, but also our life in general. And a theme could be in more than one story. Well, here are some examples of themes. And I'm going to read when I stop, you say the next word. So be ready. Human beings across cultures are very similar. They want the same things. They want food, next word, shelter, next word, love, next word, friends. Okay, I understand. So that could be a big message of an author, underlying, hidden in a story, and it's one about human beings and our life. And that one could be in many, many stories. Looking at the next one, totally different, and I'm going to read when I stop, you say the next word. If you are very selfish, you may not have many friends. So an author might write a story that tells us, don't be selfish, you won't have many friends. That's a big message, one that is a message that could occur in many, many, many different stories. Yes. Well, let's read the last example. And I'm going to read when I stop, say the next word. You get better at something by practicing. Boy, don't we know that. Okay, so the story might have that message. If you practice and you practice, you'll get better. And that could be in many different stories. I could have a story that is about basketball. You get better by practicing. I could have a story about baseball. You get better by practicing. I could have a story about writing poems. You get better by practicing. Absolutely, that is a theme that could occur in many different stories. Well, let's get this down better. And so here I have a question, and read the question with me. Which of these could be a theme? Okay, my turn to talk about this, and then you'll get to do one similar. Okay, Jamie gave Maggie half of a sandwich at lunch. So I asked myself, is that a big message of a story? And could there be many, many stories written about Jamie and Maggie and sandwich and lunch? And I say to myself, well, this is just an event, just a detail in a story. Now, Jamie gave Maggie half the sandwich, just a detail in a story. And so it wouldn't be the whole big message of the author. Sharing a half sandwich is a way to make a friend. Now, maybe giving a half sandwich is a way to make a friend, but I don't think we'd have a lot of stories about half sandwiches being shared. So I say to myself, I don't think that is the whole big message. When we share with others, they benefit and we benefit. Wow, that could be whether it's a sandwich or a book that we're reading, or we share a smile. They benefit, the receiver, and we benefit the giver. Oh yes, I think that is the message. I think that because, let me go back here one more. It's a big idea, could be the message of the author. It tells me about life in general, and it could happen in many different stories. All right. Okay, now it's going to be your turn. So read the question with me. Which of these could be a theme, and why? Okay, and so let's read them and you'll think about them. So read the first one with me. We should put our family members first. And next, Tim helped his sister with her homework instead of skateboarding with a friend. And number 3, Tim's sister finished her homework. Now it's your turn to think about what is the big message, the big idea, the theme. And when you know which one it is, you're going to form the number on your table by putting down one finger if you think it's 1 or 2 or 3. Okay, so think about it. Okay, high in the air, pretend, show me. And I hope that you have the same answer I did. I put up 1 for the first one. Now, Let's read that one, because everybody chose that, and read it with me. We should put our family members first. And I want you to think why that might be a theme of one story or many stories. And ones, whisper to your partner why you think it is a theme, and start by saying, I believe this is a theme because. Share with your partner. Okay, and I'm going to call on Ann Watanabe, but I'll give her answer for her. I believe that this is a theme because it tells a big message, a big idea. We should put our family members first. And it tells about human life, which most themes focus on. And it could happen in many different stories. So we could have a story about Tim and his sister, but we could also have a story that happened in the beautiful First Nation village that I was in this week and had most miraculous teaching experiences. And they were very, very protective and supportive of their family members. I could have it as a story of Thanksgiving, where the family members were very honoring of their family members. So lots of different stories. Now read number 2 with me. Tim helped his sister with her homework instead of skateboarding with a friend. Now this is not a theme, and I want you to think why it is not a theme. 2s, lean over and whisper to your partner and start by saying, this is not a theme because. Okay, I'm going to call on Holly, but I'll say your answer, Holly. This is not a theme because it is a detail from a story, and it certainly is a detail that tells about helping out a family member, but it is not the theme because it's not the underlying big message. All right, let's do the last one and read it with me. Tim's sister finished her homework. And think why it is not a theme. Okay, and ones, tell your partner and start by saying, this is not a theme because. Okay, I'm going to call on Karen, and she's going to say, it is not a theme because it is a detail from a story. It is not the big message. All right, excellent job. So, back to being participants, though it is kind of fun to be in 3rd grade or 5th grade. So, in the question box, and then Jackie will read them to me, let's start with writing down good practices on design. Good practices on design, and add those in, and we'll wait a moment until you have a chance to get them in, and then Jackie will read them as we go.
All right, we have sentence starters,
Ooh,
examples,
good.
examples and non-examples,
Excellent.
finger on the table first, then in the air,
Excellent.
hand signals,
Beautiful.
having a goal,
Excellent.
read with me, keep your voice with mine,
Beautiful.
brisk pace, sharing with partner,
Excellent.
sentence starters, choral reading,
Great.
provide examples and non-examples, frequent responses,
Right. Great.
respect what your partner said,
Mm-hmm.
think we got them.
I think we have a beautiful job. Excellent. I wrote down just some of mine, but you expanded way beyond it. Just a reminder of teaching a concept. And so instead of just leaping on, let's learn how to find a theme. We better be certain that they know what a theme is. And theme would be concept, so we would apply the pedagogy for a concept of introducing the words pronunciation, introducing the words meaning, illustrating it with some examples, and then check their understanding, which I did using examples and non-examples. And so the basic structure of teaching a concept can be used as soon as we identify, it's a concept. And then we had lots of responses, choral responses, partner responses, and I love the fact that you honed in on the critical aspect of having a sentence starter, and then we did choral reading and close reading. Now, I couldn't monitor all of you, though I could monitor the responses that Jackie read to me. And of course, you would be listening carefully to responses, going to partners and listening in, giving feedback, and maintaining a brisk pace. Terrific. So the next part of the lesson is I'm going to introduce the steps in the strategy, and those would be teaching facts and information. So I want you to think for a moment, if I was teaching facts or information, what would I want you to do? What are these things? And I'll just give you some hand signals to bring it to mind. I hope you thought, I need to have them attend, I need to have them intend, I need to have them rehearse, and I need to have them retrieve. So again, you'll be taking notes and then posting them as we go. All right, so back to being fifth graders. So we are going to learn how to figure out that theme, that big idea, that message of the author, and we're going to use a strategy that a researcher named Joanna Williams looked at, called 2 questions and 2 statements. And so after we read a story and we're trying to figure out the theme, we start by asking ourselves these 2 questions. And read the first one with me. Was what happened good or bad? Was it, why was it good or bad? And then afterwards, the 2 statements are, and read it with me, the main character learned that he or she should, and we should. That is the theme. So the author is telling us, here's what the main character learned that he or she should do, and we should do the same. 2 questions. Let's look at those again. Was what happened good or bad? Why was it good or bad? And 2 statements. The main character learned that he or she should, and we should. Okay, so now put your paper down. Don't look at the screen and get ready to answer 2 questions. First one was what happened good or bad? Good. And why was it good or bad? And 2 statements. The main character learned that he or she should do something, and we should do something. Okay, without peeking, ones, you're going to turn to your partner and tell them the 2 questions. Okay, I bet you said, was what happened good or bad, and why was it good or bad? And 2s, without peeking, tell your partner the 2 statements. And read them with me. And the main character learned that he or she should, and we should. Now we're going to practice these a lot as we figure out the theme, but it's good to have them in mind so that we can ask ourselves those questions later on. All right, so participants. So I introduced or utilized what we know about teaching factual information. I could have just said we're going to do this, but if I want them to retain it, I'm going to have to do some things. I'm going to have them attend. I'm going to have them intend to remember it. I'm going to have them rehearse it, and then retrieve it from memory. So now, thinking about just this little tiny segment, write in any other things that you thought were good practice. And now I learned that I can see your answers. All right.
Fantastic, Anita.
Yes, I know. It just took us a little time. Now we've got it perfect. Okay, and let me see here. And I get to see all my friends' names. Everything is so perfect. Hi, Karen. Oh, excellent. So basically, I saw this, that there was, I previewed before they answered, we used closed reading, right, Bonnie? And Karen said we also did choral reading. And you're right, Karen, it was, a part of it was like study, tell, help, check. And Holly, you suggested, hi Holly, that there was an instructional routine here. I had to attend, intend, rehearse, and retrieve, which I used again and again. And Bonnie, you said that they rehearsed the 2 questions and the 2 statements so that we have this in place. See, normally what a teacher might do is say, we're going to learn about theme and immediately move right into modeling without taking care that they knew the concept and taking care that they'd already been introduced to the strategy steps, which will then make them focus on how to do it, not on those 2 pieces of information. Terrific. Okay, I think that is our last answer, but it's not the last thing we're doing, of course. And so now we're going in further. Well, this is just the feedback: attend, intend, rehearse, and retrieve, and everything that you said. We did choral responses, partner responses, choral reading, and I would continue always to monitor, give feedback, and have a very brisk pace. All right, so see if you're on 26. So we're going to teach a strategy, and participants, before we even do that, I want you to think, what are the pedagogy steps that we would often utilize for a strategy? So take a moment to think of those steps. Okay, and I'm going to bet, get your hands ready, I bet you're going to say, I do it, we do it, you do it. And if you didn't say that, then you will get to return to Portland, Oregon for another TOT next summer. So no, we'll just send you little messages to remember, I do it, we do it, you do it. So I would like you, again, to think about the design as well as the delivery. And I am going to do the I do it part, and I want you to think about what was particularly helpful there. And then we will do debriefing, and then we'll look at the we do it, and then we'll do debriefing on that. All right, and I want to tell you, this strategy is one that did come from the research of Joanna Williams, and I had a chance to be at a meeting with her and complimented her on it because I've taught theme in the past thing with such nebulous pointers for children, like look for hints from the author. And it never worked out. But this strategy, boom, they got it, they used it, they generalized it. So I hope that you'll have a chance to share that with the teachers too. So thinking about good practices and back to being my students. So we are going to learn how to apply 2 questions, 2 statements to figure out the what, everyone, the theme, right? The what, everyone, the theme. And we're going to use short stories. Later, we're going to use this with our anthology stories that are longer. We're even going to look at the themes within novels that we read, which there may be even more than one novel, but that's later. Right now, we're going to use these short stories. And the title, can you read that with me? And go. The New Girl. So, trainer talk. I would often have the students read it silently and then we'd read it orally, but our time is very short. So I'm going to read it with you. So I'm going to read. When I stop, say the next word. Sarah didn't play with Layla, the new girl in her class, at recess. No one did. Okay, now I'm going to read, stop, and you're adding to it. Layla had come to their school after winter break. She wore strange clothes, and she spoke with an accent. Then one day, the teacher put Sarah and Lila together as partners on a class project. At first, Sarah was nervous about working with someone so different. But then they began to talk. She found out that Lila had a little brother, just like she did. Not only that, they both loved to draw, and they both collected seashells. Sarah invited Layla over after school to work on the project and the seashell collection. The girls worked well together, and before she left, Sarah gave Layla one of her best shells to take home for her collection. The next day, Layla invited Sarah over for dinner. The food was really different than what Sarah was used to, but it tasted really good. Layla's parents were nice too. The girls got an A on their project, but even better, they became good friends. Excellent. All right. And so we read the paragraph first, students, and then we can apply our strategy. And this time it is my turn to use that strategy. Okay, there we go. So first we have two questions. Read the first question with me. Was what happened good or bad? Well, I say to myself, okay, they became good friends. They were able to, they were very different. They did well as partners. They worked well together. And so I say what happened was good. And then I have to say, read it with me. Why was it good or bad? Okay, I say to myself, it was good because they were able to work together. They were able to enjoy and learn all that. They were similar in so many ways. And would you, I wrote down my answer also. Would you read that with me and go? And read it, everyone. When Sarah got to know Layla, she learned that they had a lot in common and they worked well together. Okay, that's why it was good. Two statements. The main character learned that he, except it's she in this case, she should. The main character learned that she should get to know people that are different because they might have lots in common and they may learn to be friends. Okay, that's one way I could say it. Let's see what I wrote down. And read the whole thing with me and go. The main character learned that she should get to know people even when they appear different. That person may end up being a good friend. And read the next line. We should. Okay, so what the author wanted the character to learn, the author also wanted us to learn. So I say to myself, we should get to know people that are different. They might be similar and they might end up being a good friend. So let's see what I wrote as, and read the last two lines with me and we go. We should get to know people even when they appear different. That person may end up being a good friend. That's the theme. That is the underlying message. That is the big idea. It is the, what, everyone? The theme. One more time, it is the theme. All right, so that was the modeling. All I did there was model the strategy. And so I want you to type in what you thought were good practices and go.
Are you able to see those coming in, Anita?
I do. I love it. We have a new discovery here. So, and what Navi said, active participation strategies for reading the material, such as I read, stop, and they say the word close, and choral responses. And my friend from British Columbia, Holly, is saying, let me just move down here, that it was easy to follow the steps. And boy, is clarity. Remember that effect size of 0.74 for clarity. And modeling, but Karen, you noticed the thinking out loud. I ask myself, I tell myself. And it was definitely an I do it with think alouds. And so, and Tammy would probably, certainly I supported their practice, but the guided practice is coming up right now with the we do it. And close reading and choral reading and modeling, and they also had to retrieve the steps in the strategy, close reading with students, keeping students' attention, and basically modeling how to find the theme. But Amy, you're right, the students, even though I'm modeling, because this took a few minutes, I had the students join me in reading the questions, reading the statements, reading the answers, so they're actively present. So every part I'm doing for them, I'm modeling and giving them thinking time, a pretty brisk pace, easy to follow, modeling, think alouds. Sylvia said the task was broken into steps, beautiful. All right, beautiful job. Now, I would probably maybe model it twice, but not many times, because as we all remember, it is the we do it that has the most power. So we are going to, but here's my feedback in written form, and you had it. So in the part we just watched, the strategy part, I modeled it. I showed you step by step, exaggerated, told you what I was doing, and told you what I was thinking. Those think alouds that all of you recognize. And we had choral responses. No, if I did partner responses, they had choral reading, they had closed reading, and we kept that brisk pace going. All right, so after we do I do it, we would do a we do it. So students, we're going to do this one together. And so let's read the title together and go. Cassie and her cookies. And I'm going to read when I stop to say the next word. Cassie was having a wonderful time at summer camp. Her counselor was really nice, and she had made friends with all the girls in her cabin. This was a little bit different. I am going to read the first part of a sentence, and you're going to finish it off. One day, a package arrived for Cassie. All of the children in her cabin watched as she opened it. I'm doing your part too. It was a box of homemade chocolate chip cookies. Cassie's mother made the best chocolate chip cookies in the world. Cassie took one out of the box and was just about to take a bite when one of the other girls asked if she could have a cookie. Then all the girls were asking. Cassie counted the cookies in the box. They were exactly 12 of them. There were 10 girls in the cabin. If she gave a cookie to each girl, there would only be 2 left for herself. Cassie knew that if she shared with one girl, she would have to share with everyone. Cassie got to eat all of the cookies herself. But from then on, the other girls hardly talked to her at all, and no one wanted to be her friend anymore. Okay, let me just explain that before we go on. So it's a different type of close where I read the first part of the sentence and the students read to the end punctuation. A little hard to model on a very good webinar. Okay, back to being fifth graders. So we have read the story and we have to figure out the what, everyone? The theme. And we're going to use our 2 questions and 2 statements. So, 2 questions. Read the first question with me and go, everyone. Was what happened good or bad? Okay, and so we're looking at it in terms of the Cassie. Was what happened to her good or bad? Turn and whisper to your partner if you think it was good or bad. Okay, everyone, you thought it was bad. I did too. And I want to read the next question. Why was it good or bad? So think for a moment. One's you're going to tell your partner, and you're going to start by saying, it was bad because. It was bad because. Tell your partner your answer. Okay, looking up here, compare it with mine. And read it, everyone. Cassie didn't share the cookies. As a result, the other girls didn't want to be her friend. Your answers were very close to that. And then we have our 2 statements, and read the first part, everybody. The main character learned that she should. Read it again for me. The main character learned that she should. And on your paper, I want you to copy that and write your answer. And first 2s, then 1s. Read it to your partner. Okay, pretend I call on Sylvia and she says, Sylvia, read yours, and she says, the main character learned that she should share with her friends. Terrific. And then I call on Jason, and Jason said, the main character learned that if you don't share with your friends, you're not going to have any friends. All right, both of those were good and very clear. And let's read my answer together and go. The main character learned that she should share with her friends. And the next one is the theme. And so everybody read the first part. We should. So would you please complete your answer? We should. Okay, first 1s, then 2s. Oh, let's do 2s first. First 2s, then 1s. Share your sentence with your partner. Share the theme with your partner. And Vidra, what is your answer? And she says, we should share with others. Well, let us see if that is similar. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but similar to the theme I had. And read it with me. We should share with friends. Beautiful job. Okay, trainer talk. So there I was doing a we do it, where I was guiding students in doing it, what is the step in the strategy, and having them do it. So it's your turn. Type in what you thought were some good practices, and go. And perfect answers there. Thank you, Holly. Add good practices during a we do it. So, and yes, short written responses, sharing with others, and the written responses, I believe, Anne, were critical because it's a better way to hold children accountable, but then they have to really think about it and also see the relationship between what the main character learned, in this case, and what we are to learn. And Brian, you said when you asked us to write on our answers, you also wrote. Ooh, nice job. I was modeling the expected behavior. Yes, I did. Wrote it right on my paper. Really nice observation. Elizabeth said, yes, Stu's got to go first. You know, I got feedback when I was teaching at the Institute for the First Nations in British Columbia that I gave too many chains to one. So I just had a reminder of that. We had partner talk, which led to accountability, and yes, and they shared with their partners, and let's see, they wrote an answer and then shared with the partner. Excellent, Karen, so that they would be more likely to have a thoughtful answer when they did share. The use of sentence starters, beautiful. Active participation, writing answers, sharing with partners, and perfect. And let's see, I think we're down to our last answer, different type of closed reading. Terrific. Well, in my feedback, I just reminded you that a we do it is we tell them the step and we have them do it. We tell them a step and we have them do it. We tell a step and have them do it. And of course, we would want lots of active participation during the we do it, and you found them all. Choral responses, partner responses, choral reading, closed reading, monitoring their responses, which I got to monitor right on here, yay, giving them feedback, and having a brisk pace. Such a brisk pace that we got it into this period of time, perfection. Now, it is, as we know, many kids would need lots of we do it in order for them to become competent at this good strategy so that they could use it more independently. So, no, go away, my computer talking to me when I don't want it to. So we might have another we do it, which if you have nothing to do this evening on this beautiful Friday, you just take this out and you figure out what is the theme. But we're not going to. And in fact, I even gave you feedback on it, though, so you can check out your answer afterwards. And another one, if you could do totally independently, you do it. But there should be a closing to the lesson, even on a webinar. And so I'm going to do a closing to the 5th graders, and then I'll do a closing for you. So remember that you're going to, again, write down good practices and be ready to type those in terms of design and delivery. So, students, today we focus on another element of a story, another element of a narrative. We were focused on a theme. And I want you to think for a moment of what is a theme. Thinking? And twos, you're going to tell your partner and you're going to start by saying a theme is. Choose tell your partner as if they were not here today. Explain to them what a theme is, and go. Okay, now I bet that you said things such as a theme is a big idea of a story, or a theme is the message of the author. And you might have also said a theme usually is about human nature or how we live. And a theme could be repeated in many stories. Oh, we're really going to find that out. We're going to read a number of stories that have the same theme, but they're totally different in terms of the characters and the setting and the plot, but they have the same theme. Fascinating. And we learned that there are two questions and statements that we can use to determine, to figure out the theme. So think of the two questions. And one's tell your partner what the two questions are. And let's read them again. Two questions and go. Was what happened good or bad? Why was it good or bad? Okay, now think of the two statements. And one's whisper to your partner the two statements. Excellent. And the main character learned that he or she should and we should. Wow, I love this strategy. And fifth graders, every time we read a story, we're going to be using two questions, two statements to figure out what is the theme. Well, trainers, what it's like to be with you and see your name and to hear of all the things that you are doing. I mean, I think we are so blessed as we go into the new year, except the people from Australia that I saw on today. They are not in the new year. They are going into their last, part of their last term. Soon their year will be over. But just to have the blessing of being able to make a difference with children and to bring them lessons that are not only great in content, but reflect what we know about effective and efficient teaching explicit instruction. May you thrive in the beautiful weather of fall. It was a delight to be with you. And do we have any, if you have a question, we have like a second left. If you have a question, can you type it in if there's one that you've just been dying to ask me? But I will tell you, today we had this webinar because someone emailed me and said, would you show how all these parts fit together within a lesson? And so that's what you got. And if you email me a question, we'll be all prepared to respond to it the next time we come together. Jackie, do you have anything we need to know as we're ending today?
I'm looking and I don't see any questions coming in. I think we're in good stead there. If anybody does have a question,
well, we had some trouble with your voice.
A little crackly. We appreciate everybody
well, we
joining
may have
us
covered
today.
them all.
And our next webinar with Anita will be on January 31st. So let you get into the new year here.
Right. Thank you all. And I think that's it. We will send you an email that tells you how to go to the archives and use this. So have a great day. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.